Alright, let's see what we've got here. Everything is in the cabinet loosely. Nothing is velcroed down at this point. I'm noticing some wicked vibrations from the fan in the back. I'm not sure if it's because the lock isn't pulling the door tightly shut, or if the fan, yeah, there it is, or if it's the fan. But here you can see I've got it up and running. The horizontal width is too wide. I'll have to adjust that. Hopefully I can adjust that with the width coil, and I don't have to change the width capacitor to get it to shrink enough to fit. Hopefully you can hear the audio. It's all the way up. So the audio's a little bit low. Although I do notice down here there is volume, which says 5/6, which I'm assuming is buttons 5 and 6, and I don't have 6 buttons. That's one of the problems with this. The RGB-Pi is set up so that all the buttons are pre-configured, so it saves you time. You don't have to mess with configuration, but if you need to configure something, then you're kind of in a fix. How am I going to change the volume? I don't know. I guess plug a keyboard in. So yeah, I've got button 1, 2, 3, start, and coin at this point, and then obviously joystick. And I wired the coin slot up to the same input as this coin button, so they both will trigger a coin input. So if you can see, scrolling 5 to 6, A to Z, 2 is back, 3 is show, 4 is favorite. Well, I can't add a game to a favorite because I don't have a button 4. I can't find in the options anywhere to set the hotkeys. Button style JAMA, and I don't have any joysticks connected. USB. So I'm not sure that I can adjust. I'm not sure if I can adjust anything as far as hotkeys. So if you don't have 6 buttons on your control panel, you might have a problem. Again, there's not that much out there on the RGB-Pi that I could find as far as I'm watching videos, manuals, trying to read the online wiki, trying to figure this stuff out. I'm not finding a heck of a lot out there. So I've got it set up external unit, so it's reading the games off of a USB thumb drive. This stuff is online. So none of this is something that can't be seen online. Just flipping through the menus. Show hotkeys. That's what shows hotkeys when you start a game. There'll be a screen that tells you what the hotkeys do. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell me what the hotkey is. So what I'm going to be doing what I'm going to do is try and start a game and then exit out of it, which I messed around with. Yeah, hotkey +2 exits the game. Okay, what's my hotkey? I can't, didn't look like I could reassign it. It didn't show me what it was. The wiki page doesn't seem to tell me what it is. Yeah, so I'm used to just plain MAME where I have P1 start as the hotkey, and then you hold it and you press another key. So I thought hotkey 2+2, I didn't know what that meant. So I watched some videos online and I see a couple different, it looks like people doing things a couple different ways, so they might have theirs set differently. But hopefully what that means is if I hold start and then tap button number 2 twice for hotkey 2+2. So we'll see if that works, because up to this point I start a game and then I have to shut the thing down because I can't figure out how to get out of the game. So we'll give this a try. Okay, that was it. So that was just me not knowing that that's a thing. I've only ever used a combination that consisted of holding the start and then pressing one other key or one other joystick direction. So now that I see that you can do 2+2, so that kind of eliminates accidentally escaping out of a game if you hit a button at the same time you're hitting start. You have to hit the same button twice, I guess. So now I know that works. That's great. I can now get back into the menu. So you can see that it was working. We'll just go back into there. There was a comment about the RetroArch menu. I'm not sure what that is. I can go in there. Maybe that'll have some settings that I can't get to currently. Again, you can see the width is too wide. Also, the vertical is a bit, actually it's a bit askew, which is moving the yoke to fix, which I don't really want to mess with that. So I think I might have to shrink it just a tad to get that side in line without moving the entire yoke. But yeah, you can see it's too wide. It's, like I said, it's a little too tall, or it's slanted in that direction. This is tinted plexiglass. It's just sprayed black everywhere but the center section. There's no plastic bezel or cardboard bezel in there, but it's so dark in there that you can't really tell. It looks fine just having a piece of painted plexi in front of it. This was in bars, and the games you could play, you know, a couple people could be sitting next to each other, and it's on a Lazy Susan. So you could, you know, point it at one person, somebody sitting over there, you could point it at them, whatever. That really doesn't work in this situation because you get this going on. So, if I'm going to keep this as this setup, which I don't know why I'd go back to the trivia game when the trivia game doesn't even work. If I'm going to keep this like this and not just tear it apart for parts, that Lazy Susan's going to have to go because this is just silly. Which means I'll probably have to put some rubber feet under there because I think with the Lazy Susan gone, it's going to be sitting on this black raised part of the T-molding on the table. And it's probably better to get some kind of rubber feet on there so it's not scratching the table. In fact, the control panel base down here feels like it's just about level with the bottom of the side panel and that raised T-molding. So it'd have to be some fairly high feet. So maybe even some like feet made for a computer or something that's got some height to it. But yeah, as far as the game goes, can add a credit. I haven't tried putting a quarter in, but it's wired up and it's a functional coin mechanism, so that should work. Yeah, having the whole cabinet move when you're moving the joystick is definitely not ideal. But you can see everything seems to work. So yeah, when the fan back door isn't rattling, the fan's not too loud, the audio is a little bit too quiet. But I mean, you don't need a bar top to be super loud, I guess. And if I had buttons 5 and 6, I could possibly get it to go a little bit louder. I might put a keyboard on. If I plug a keyboard into the USB slot, then I think I can use the keyboard to adjust the volume. And then I can look around a little bit more in the software. So hotkey +3. I don't know what the retro arch menu is. Evidently it doesn't work in a game. Huh, interesting. Huh. Okay, well anyway, let me see if I can... get out of here. So I ended up, I don't know how much this is going to be in frame. So yeah, the wiring is a mess because I just did it for testing and haven't cleaned it up. I ended up with the lock. Hopefully that's in frame. I didn't have a long enough lock with keys, but I found that the shorter one with a different lock hasp and then adjusting this lock bar enabled me to use a lock that I actually do have a key for in the front, and this size lock worked in the back. This size lock doesn't look like it's going to work in the coin slot, I haven't tried it, but I think it needs one of these bent ones that would be even longer than this one to engage the coin bucket to lock it. I haven't messed with that. But yeah, just pretty simple wiring. I did use this bridge rectifier that comes off the transformer, provides 12 volts. And I applied that to the buttons. So you saw these two buttons light up. So they're getting their power from that bridge rectifier to light up, which are the outer connectors on these switches. Go to the light bulb, and then the connections on the actual micro switch are the micro switch, the push buttons. And then the other ones, I've got a daisy chain ground that starts here with the joystick connector, and it goes to all of the buttons, including these two panel buttons. However, looking at, again, the way I couldn't see if you can customize your button layout. If I had wired these up, the only thing I can wire them up to on the RGB-Pi Plus board that's on the Raspberry Pi is buttons 5 and 6, or player 2 buttons 1 and 2. There's no connection on that board for, say, select or, you know, custom hotkey or whatever. So all I can do is program to what they can solder to, and the board has solder inputs for up, down, left, right, coin, start, and then buttons 1 through 8 for one player, and the same again for two players. So what's the point of making these buttons 4 and 5, because these are 1, 2, 3, start, coin. I can make these 4 and 5, but you're not going to play a Neo Geo game hitting button 4 with the control panel down. And if I can't assign button 4 to something like getting into the menu, where if you have people over, you want to only have to be able to get in here if it's unlocked to go to the menu, then there isn't really any point to wire those up. So I did not wire those up to anything, because at this point I don't see a purpose. Now I do have the two wires just coiled up that go to them, and their ground wire is daisy chained in with these and the coin slot. So all I have to do, if I want to wire them up, is solder those two wires to something on the RGB-Pi board, and they will be functional buttons. But if I can't find a use for it, then there's no point. So yeah, just kind of a sloppy mess. I changed out the Sametsu joystick here for a Sanwa. It uses this single connector that has up, down, left, right, and a ground coming out of it, as opposed to the Sametsu, which has 4 individual micro switches. So you have to daisy chain a ground to each micro switch, as opposed to this, where it's already done internally and just has one ground coming out of it. So that just made it a little bit easier to wire. I put an octagonal restrictor on the joystick. Same thing I'm running in my Double Dragon cabinet project, is the twin of this stick, because I got 2 of them. One is in the Double Dragon panel with a spinner on it that I haven't got around to trying yet, and this is the other one here. So apart from that, yeah, I just gutted the cabinet. Isolation transformer and wiring is still in there. Last video, I think, pretty much showed all of the stuff out of the cab that I have put into the cab. The one thing that I wish I had done differently and might redo is the fan that I have plugged into the Raspberry Pi. I've got plugged in through a USB adapter. I might take the other 5-volt fan I got that does not have a USB adapter and directly solder it to the RGB-Pi board, because it does have a 5-volt and ground. So if I just solder a short wire there, it's not all the wiring that's involved with the Noctua fan and the adapter and hanging off that USB port. It frees up a USB port and it gets rid of some of that wire clutter and would just be the fan soldered directly to the RGB-Pi board. I haven't run it for this. That was probably the longest I've run it since getting it set up. I did it last night when I finished the wiring, and like I said, I couldn't figure out how to change games, so I pretty much just had one game in there. Played a game, shut it down, started it back up, played one different game. But the Raspberry Pi temperature doesn't seem to be getting high enough to be any concern. I don't know that I can turn this around without knocking stuff off the table. Yeah. That's not going to work. So I was going to open it up and show the back, but it's just a mess. Everything's crammed in there, and it's no big deal because I already saw that in the video before this one. Showed all the stuff sitting on a table. So yeah, that's proof of concept, absolutely 100% working with the limitations of the RGB-Pi OS that I'm not sure what all I can do with hotkey configuration, and I'm not sure what other options I should be setting up, if any. The front panel, if I'm going to keep this or sell it or give it away or something, I really should try and figure out a decent way to patch this hole here and then sand and repaint the control panel. I've got to make some of these, probably all four of the holes that the joystick is in bigger. This one here, the bolt doesn't seat because it's just splayed at a bit of an angle because that hole is too small and not dead on where it needs to be for that bolt to go through the joystick. But it's not even tightened down, and it's in there and doesn't slide around or anything. The scratches here from the Dremel as I was widening the holes for these buttons, kind of slipping those. If I just sanded the panel down and repainted, you wouldn't even see those, plus some bubbling up of the original paint from moisture getting underneath the original buttons from it being in a bar type location. The monitor, I really don't want to try and twist the yoke a little to get the picture lined up because I suck at adjusting monitors, but it should be tilted a little bit to get that straightened, but it definitely needs the width shrunk, so that's something to do too. And then put Velcro on the bottom of everything that's in there so that they stay in there, so this thing could be moved without worrying about something falling into something else. And then the volume pot should be cut a hole in the back door so the volume pot is reachable. General cleanup. I just noticed the T-molding is shrunk to the point where it's pulling out in this corner, which there's nothing really I can do about that other than redoing the T-molding, which I'm not going to do. Which is a shame because I didn't notice that earlier, and I've already thrown away the two other cabinets, both of their side panels, so I didn't think to look to see if I had any T-molding issues. This side's fine, that one's pulling away a little, but hey, you know, whatever. Total cost into this machine of new parts was the RGB-Pi I bought new, the Noctua fan I bought new, audio amplifier I bought new. I 3D printed a case for the Pi. This is a joystick I've had for years, buttons I've had for years from other projects, wiring I've had for even more years. I reused some of the original cabinet wiring. So not a lot of money went into getting it to this stage. 3 locks that I've had, or two locks currently that I've had for a while. I put in, and like I said, I might be able to get the third lock I have that fits this key. I might be able to get it on the coin box, but I'm not positive it's going to work. So yeah, fairly cheap project. Kind of a cool result, I guess, as long as it is comfortable if you're sitting at this height. Although there's really nothing to rest your wrist on. It's kind of yeah. There's just no room there. So how long you'll play before you get some kind of fatigue, I don't know. But as a quick sit down, fire up a game of something and play, it's perfectly fine. Other than the whole Lazy Susan thing, which has definitely got to go. And now that I look down at the bottom of the cabinet, I can definitely see that the hinges for the control panel actually sit lower than the bottom of the wood and the raised T-molding. So it would have to be a fairly tall foot to put underneath it to get it high enough so it's not resting at an angle with those metal hinges on the table and the rest of it at an angle like that. Yeah, there's nothing in the back that sticks up that high, so the highest thing in the bottom are the big metal control panel blocks that hold the control panel in. So yeah, there we go. Try to keep this video a little bit short. She's up, she's running. She could be louder. I'm not entirely pleased with the RGB-Pi, to be honest. I mean, it is designed so people don't have to do a bunch of configuration, and they really mean it. If you want to do any configuration, it kind of looks like it's a pain in the neck. I only have arcade games on here at the moment. When you buy their hardware, they give you a link to a site where you can download their ROM packs, which have all been modified to work with the controls that are automatically set up in the OS. Again, keeping it as their attempt at a kind of a close to a plug and play where you don't have to do a lot of configuration, but again, it means you're locked into their configuration, and it looks difficult if you want to change things from the little bit I've been able to see. So yeah, maybe yank it out and put a different emulator, Raspberry Pi emulator system on there. Then you will have to mess with the whole timings for the CRT, but maybe that would be worth it. I don't know. So yeah, basically I don't know where it goes from here, but it's up and working.